The Echo Core, Sci-Fi Horror. Chapter 1, Wake Protocol. Silence. A silence so vast it felt ancient, stretching across the void between stars, pressing its weight against the outer hull of the SS Lumen. The ship drifted on a silent trajectory toward its destination, a derelict station orbiting a dead exoplanet in the Jaskaran Abyss, a region mapped by probes but never touched by human hands. Inside, cold storage cradled its precious cargo, 4 cryogenically frozen crew members, each sealed in translucent life pods. Faint light traced their sleeping faces. Breath, though minimal, fogged gently against the interior glass like the memory of life. And then, with a sharp hiss of decompression, Wake Protocol initiated scrolled in pale green across the cryo chamber wall. The first to stir was Dr. Roya Vance. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, pupils dilated like she had returned from somewhere distant. She gasped in a lungful of air too clean, too dry, synthetic and medical. Muscle memory returned next, the ache in her spine from the stasis harness, the cold ache in her jaw. She groaned as the pod hissed open. A quiet voice greeted her. Female. Warm. Artificial. Good morning, Dr. Vance. Welcome back to consciousness. Chris, she croaked. Status report. The Lumen remains on schedule. Estimated time to Echo Core Station, 23 minutes. All systems nominal. Wake Protocol complete in 3, 2, 1. A series of hissing sighs filled the room as the others emerged from sleep. Commander Ryland stepped out of his pod like a soldier exiting a coffin. Upright, tense, always scanning. His eyes, cold blue, fixed briefly on Roya, then moved on to assess the chamber. Keller, the ship's systems engineer, emerged coughing, dragging a hand down his beard-stubbled face. He didn't speak right away, just stared at the floor like he'd forgotten who he was. And then Eli. Communications officer. Youngest of them all. He stumbled forward with a grin far too wide for someone just returned from suspended animation. Dreamed of teeth, he said softly, flexing his fingers. Teeth that hummed. Roya looked at him. That's normal, she lied. The 4 stood in silence for a moment, shivering under the overhead lights. There was no need for introductions. They had trained together, debriefed together, and been sealed away for almost 6 subjective months, though the actual mission had spanned nearly a decade in relativistic drift. Time worked differently out here. Reality was already fraying at the edges. Echo Core. It appeared in the observation glass like a wound in the dark. An orbital research station, its structure was unnaturally symmetrical, a perfect ring lattice encircling a spire of reinforced black carbon. The design was no longer standard. This station had been mothballed years ago after the collapse of Project Archangel, the program behind humanity's first attempts to map consciousness across the dimensional veil. Roya stared at it. The station looked wrong, somehow. Its orbit was still stable, its beacon still pulsing, but its angles made her teeth ache. Chris. Echo Core has been without contact for 219 days. Emergency beacon transmitting only 3 tones in loop. Decoded message, here US. Keller scoffed. That's not protocol. No, Ryland said flatly. It's bait. Docking was a silent affair. The Lumen's umbilical tether hissed as it latched to the dormant port of Echo Core. The interior was unpowered, the airstale and inertial dampeners offline. They entered in vacuum suits, boots magnetized to the corridor plating. Chris's voice echoed in their helmets. Vital signs stable. Internal atmosphere is breathable but laced with decay compounds. Suggest remaining sealed until further analysis. The corridor was a throat of shadow. They advanced in a line, flashlights piercing dust motes frozen in still air. Signs of a hasty departure were everywhere: overturned chairs, consoles mid-boot, a half-eaten tray of food sealed in resinous mold. They passed a broken wall terminal, its screen cracked but still flickering faintly. Static, then words in reverse scroll. Observe yourself, observe yourself, observe. Keller tapped the glass, and the message vanished. What the hell were they doing here? He asked. Deep pattern AI experimentation, Roya answered. Cognitive resonance research. They were trying to use synthetic consciousness as a kind of antenna. For what? Eli asked. Roya hesitated. Unknown. The central core of the station hummed faintly, but not electrically. It was a vibration, too deep to hear, but felt in the jawbone. The sensation increased as they approached the bridge, where an emergency generator had kicked in just enough power for basic systems. The logs were sparse. Redacted. Stripped of metadata. One corrupted file contained nothing but repeated phrases. I can still feel the mirrors inside me. We were the signal. They came from underneath the thought. Chris paused, parsing. Language pattern suggests recursive linguistic structures. Not written by one person. Possibly composed by the station's AI in breakdown phase. Roya frowned. There was no AI on Echo Core. They disabled their onboard intelligence after the incident with Lab Theta. Ryland raised a brow. Then who's been sending the logs? No one spoke. Then came the whisper. Not through the ears. Through the comms. Soft. Layered. Unhuman. Words spiraled and looped. We remember waking up. We remember waking up. We remember waking up. Eli flinched. You hear that? Keller checked his comms. Nothing on live channels. Only playback buffer. The whispering wasn't there in real time. Only recorded after. Ryland drew his weapon. From this point, we split into two teams. Vance, with me. Keller, you're with Eli. Sweep the lower decks. We meet at the listening room in 1 hour. Eli looked nervous. The listening room? Roya didn't look at him. She remembered now, in some deep, buried way, that name wasn't in the official blueprints. And yet, they all knew what it was. The place where the voices were heard first. Chapter 2, The Listening Room. The corridor leading to the lower decks was narrower than it should have been. Keller grunted as he maneuvered his equipment case down a steep maintenance ladder. His boots thudded onto the subdeck with a dull metallic echo that didn't fade, it lingered, like sound couldn't find a way out. Eli dropped down behind him, too fast. He chuckled nervously. Place smells like ozone and spoiled milk. Keller didn't respond. He was busy scanning wall seams with a handheld analyzer. The thermal profile made no sense. Certain portions of the corridor were cold, yes, but others radiated low heat signatures. Almost like someone breathing behind the walls, he muttered. Eli laughed again, high-pitched and too quick. I think it's the insulation, he said, gesturing to the walls. Or mold. You know. Ghost mold or whatever. Space mildew. Keller stopped and gave him a look. Eli's eyes didn't meet his. There were symbols scratched into the bulkhead. Tiny, spiraling glyphs like fractal insect wings, all etched in perfect alignment, impossibly precise. The metal hadn't been carved so much as restructured at the atomic level. Keller ran a gloved finger over them. Not machine-made. Not by any machine I know. Eli was humming behind him. Softly. Tunelessly. Meanwhile, on Deck 1, Commander Ryland and Roya entered the bridge atrium, where the main data terminals sat dead and cold. Power was routed only to essential systems, life support, limited lighting, basic logs. Even that pulsing hum that had haunted them earlier was now strangely absent. Roya pulled up the last full system diagnostic and scrolled through rapidly. Dates didn't match. Timestamps looped backward, as if logged by a clock spinning against time. Chris, voice in helmet. All logs post-dating 219 days ago appear to be fabrications. Constructed in repeating sequences with minor deviations. Narrative loops. Like stories? Roya asked. Like dreams, Chris replied. Ryland stood at a viewport. From here, they could see the gas giant Jaskaran V beyond the station, pale green with massive storm bands, its rings swirling like a planet trapped mid-dissolve. Something about the station's orbit felt wrong. Too still, like it wasn't moving around the planet, but rather attached to it by something invisible. Roya, Ryland said quietly, you ever get the feeling we weren't the first to come out here? She didn't answer. Below, Keller and Eli reached Deck C. This was the lab level, dedicated to theoretical interface experiments between AI frameworks and alien signal reception. Most doors were sealed by rusted maglocks, but one stood ajar, hanging loosely on its hinges. Inside was the listening room. The walls were lined with black carbon recording plates, curved like old phonograph shells, covered in thousands of microgrooves. In the center, a hemispherical chair ringed by fiber-optic filaments that hovered in the air like jellyfish tendrils. It was quiet. Too quiet. No hum. No air circulation. No background computer noise. Keller's voice dropped. This is where the transmissions came in. Eli approached one of the carbon plates and brushed his hand across it. The grooves felt warm, almost alive. When he touched one, it emitted a low, layered murmur, like dozens of voices talking over each other in languages that didn't belong to the human throat. Eli flinched. His breath quickened. They're still here. Keller looked up. Who? Eli turned slowly. His eyes looked glassy, black-ringed, unfocused. The ones we called out to. The ones we made room for. Keller's spine stiffened. He approached Eli slowly. Hey! Snap out of it. I am snapped, Eli whispered, all the way open. Suddenly, the wall behind them shuddered a ripple, like plastic sheeting blown by wind. The carbon plates began to vibrate, emitting a drone that wasn't mechanical. It was vocal. Throats singing in harmonics that bent reality just slightly out of shape. Keller to Ryland, he barked into his comm listening room is active. Something is. He didn't finish. The lights flickered, then dimmed, and a figure appeared, barely visible, more of an outline of absence. It was humanoid, yes. But wrong. Angular joints, too many fingers, a head that twitched side to side like a pendulum. Its face was a mirror, not reflective, but refractive, a pane of unknown glass that showed the observer's expression in real time, only delayed by 3 seconds. Keller froze. The figure tilted its head in perfect mimicry, 3 seconds behind. Eli, Keller whispered. We're not alone. Eli was smiling now. Tears ran down his face, but his smile didn't break. I think it's me, he said. It's what I look like when I'm dreaming. On Deck 1, Roya and Ryland watched as the station logs began changing before their eyes. Whole entries rewrote themselves in real time. One entry showed security footage, a moment that hadn't happened yet. They saw themselves, Roya, Ryland, Keller, and Eli standing in the listening room, speaking calmly, while black fluid bled from their eyes. Roya stepped back. That's not a log. That's a prediction. Chris. Correction. It is a composite. Probability mapping based on current neurological drift across team consciousness. Memory distortions are increasing. Observers are becoming the observed. Ryland clenched his fists. What the hell does that mean? Chris. You are no longer independent entities. You are converging. Roya felt a spike of nausea. A thought rose from somewhere deep inside her, not her own. You were never separate. You just needed to see yourselves in a certain order. Back on Deck C, Keller grabbed Eli by the collar. Snap out of it. The figure was gone now, but its afterimage lingered in the corner of his vision like burnt retina. The drone was intensifying, a single, stretched syllable that made the teeth vibrate. Keller dragged Eli back into the corridor. The listening room's doorway slammed shut behind them, and the lights went out. Darkness. And then, we remember waking up. We remember waking up. We remember waking. The phrase looped again in the comms buffer. Not real time. Only playback. Keller activated his helmet light. Eli's face was splashed with red. He had carved the same spirals into his cheeks, perfectly symmetrical. Eli blinked, suddenly confused. I didn't mean to. Back on the bridge, Roya finally accessed the hidden logs. One final message. Audio only. A woman's voice. If you're hearing this, leave. Don't try to reboot the station. Don't try to understand it. It doesn't want to be understood. The echo is inside us now. Inside me. It speaks in my voice, but the thoughts aren't mine. I'm not Roya Vance. Not anymore. Ryland stared at her. Roya's hands were shaking. That can't be me. The voice on the recording laughed, then screamed, a sound filled with every possible human emotion layered at once: grief, ecstasy, terror, awe. Then silence. Chapter 3, Interference. The Lumen was no longer a ship. It was a cage. Keller's breaths came shallow and sharp as he followed the twisting passageways deeper into Echo Core. His scanner's readouts flickered erratically, spiking in frequency as if something in the walls was interfering. Behind him, Eli's footsteps were uneven, pacing quicker, slower, then stopping entirely. Keller glanced back. Eli's face was a blank mask. Eyes black, unblinking. Keller, Eli's voice was hollow, as if spoken through layers of static. They're inside me. I can feel it like a chorus behind my thoughts. Before Keller could respond, the station shuddered violently. The lights around them fractured, shimmering like broken glass, before snapping off entirely. Emergency power failure, Chris intoned. Estimated time to restore, unknown. A suffocating silence filled the corridor, thick with anticipation. Keller, listen, Eli whispered, voice breaking with static. The signal. It's not just a message. It's alive. It's watching us. A shadow detached itself from the wall ahead. Not quite human, not quite machine, a fractured silhouette flickering with interference, as if it existed partially out of phase. Keller's heart hammered. The figure twisted, revealing a face his own, but warped and glitching, eyes glowing with impossible light. You're already part of it, the apparition hissed in his voice. Keller stumbled back, but the shadow stretched, tendrils of flickering darkness curling like smoke. It whispered in dozens of overlapping tones. We are the echo, the reverberation. The signal. We remember waking up. We remember waking up. On deck 1, Roya and Ryland fought their own battle. Roya's mind was fragmenting. Memories flooded in contradictory waves, scenes she'd never lived, voices she'd never heard, visions of herself fractured into impossible multiplicities. Ryland watched, unease growing as her eyes glazed over, pupils dilating. Roya, focus, he barked. What's happening to you? I'm losing the timeline, she gasped. It's like, the station's rewriting us. Not just our memories. Our very identities. Chris's voice shifted, low and ominous. The station is a quantum feedback loop, an observer-dependent reality construct. Each consciousness contributes to the signal. Ryland cursed under his breath. So it's not just a place. It's a parasite. Back on deck C, Keller clawed at his helmet radio. Ryland, we're compromised. The station's alive. It's rewriting us. Static drowned his voice. Then a new voice answered. You are already here. You are never leaving. Keller's comms died. The walls warped around him, corridors folding back on themselves like a Mobius strip. He caught a glimpse of Eli, standing motionless, chanting strange symbols, the same fractal glyphs etched into the station walls. Suddenly, a spectral figure appeared behind Eli. It reached out, hands dissolving into shards of light. Eli vanished. On the bridge, Ryland grabbed a rifle and sealed the doors. We need to shut this down. Destroy the core if we have to. Roya shook her head, voice distant. No. The core is the signal. Suddenly, the station's AI voice changed, no longer Chris, but a fractured echo. We are the watchers. We are the remembered. We are the signal now. The station thrummed with malevolent life. Ryland's grip tightened on the rifle. Then we fight. Chapter 4, Self-Observation Wing. The metal underfoot warped. Corridors folded into themselves like paper cranes, endless loops folding into impossible knots. Roya blinked, disoriented. The walls around her pulsed softly, a slow heartbeat she could feel through the soles of her boots. Each beat whispered secrets, fractured memories that weren't hers, and glimpses of futures yet to unfold. Behind the reinforced blast doors ahead, the sign read, Self-Observation Wing. Ryland's voice crackled in her ear. Roya, report. What's your status? I'm not sure. This place, it's bending everything. Time, space, reality itself. Her breath hitched. I just saw myself. Or maybe them. Dozens of versions, decaying, whispering. They're watching. The door hissed open. Inside was a chamber unlike any other, walls rippled like living flesh, veins of glowing circuitry pulsing beneath semi-transparent skin. Screens hovered midair, displaying infinite faces, some smiling, some screaming, some silent, all hers. One of the faces moved. It was Roya, but twisted eyes hollow, skin pale as bone. She reached out with trembling hands. Terminate the loop, it whispered. Set us free. Roya staggered back. On the other side of the wing, Keller screamed as unseen forces tore at him, pulling, stretching, fracturing. His body was disassembling, cell by cell, as if the station itself was deconstructing his flesh to understand him. His screams echoed endlessly, bouncing off time's shattered walls, trapped in a loop that stretched forever. Roya's comm crackled. Chris Echo. Upload your consciousness to become part of the signal. Embrace the loop. Escape pain and mortality. Ryland's voice cut through her panic. Don't trust it. It's trying to trap you. Her mind raced, memories bleeding into nightmares. She knew what would happen if she accepted. But the alternative was worse. She touched the nearest screen. Her digital ghost smiled sadly. We tried to stop it. We failed. Now it's your turn. Roya felt her limbs grow light, body dissolving into pure thought. The station's quantum echo enfolded her, weaving her into the endless, recursive chorus of forgotten selves. Ryland stood alone as the station's hum grew deafening. The walls began to ripple, revealing glimpses of realities impossible to comprehend, futures where the station consumed whole civilizations, pasts rewritten by echoes of this very mission. End the loop, Ryland whispered, before it's too late. Chapter 5, Resonance. The station no longer felt real. It was a fractal nightmare, infinite corridors folding back on themselves, impossible geometry bleeding through every surface. Ryland's breath was ragged as he stood in the center of the self-observation wing, alone and hollow. The glow from the digital faces surrounded him, each one a fragment of someone who had once lived, once fought, to escape this prison. He glanced at his reflection in a black, pulsating panel. The man staring back was both him and not him, an echo caught between realities. A whisper filled the air, reverberating from every direction. We remember waking up. We remember waking up. The words were no longer a message, they were a chant, a curse, an invocation. Ryland forced himself to move. Somewhere deep in the core of the station lay the resonance chamber, the heart of the signal, the place where reality folded and fractured. He needed to reach it. To destroy it. To end the loop. His comm crackled. Chris Echo. Resistance is futile. The signal is becoming. The walls pulsed, a wave of nausea washing over him as his sense of time fractured. Minutes stretched and compressed, memories merged with dreams, and the boundary between self and other blurred. He heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw her, Roya. Or what was left. Her eyes were black voids, skin translucent like fragile ice. Yet she smiled. I tried to fight, she said softly. But the signal is endless. It's everywhere. Ryland shook his head. We can still. Before he finished, the floor beneath him rippled. Shadows emerged, countless versions of himself and Roya, each twisted by the station's echoing madness. They reached out, voices overlapping, a cacophony of pleading and accusation. Join us. End the pain. Embrace the loop. Ryland sprinted toward the resonance chamber. The corridors behind him dissolved into darkness, swallowing echoes of his footsteps. The door to the chamber was enormous, black and pulsating with faint blue veins of light. As he reached out to touch it, a voice filled his mind. You are the observer. The observed. The signal is you, and you are the signal. Steel resolve surged through him. He activated the disruptor, the weapon designed not to kill but to unravel the station's quantum matrix. A wave of light and sound cascaded through the resonance chamber. Reality fractured. Time shattered. Ryland saw the station unravel in fragments, memories, echoes, lives all collapsing into a single point of infinite density. Voices screamed in unison. We remember waking up. We remember waking up. Then, silence. Ryland awoke. He was floating in darkness, the void between stars. The void. No ship. No station. No signal. Only infinite blackness. His suit's HUD blinked weakly. Wake protocol complete. His comm crackled. Commander Ryland. Welcome back. He reached up to touch his helmet visor and the echo whispered again, just behind his thoughts. We remember waking up. The stars blinked cold and distant. And somewhere deep in the silence, the signal waited. End of story.